I'm curious because you talked about this process where all these diseases or cancers seem to have this thing in common, right? These heightened blood cells. Is that what it is, or too many
What
blood
too many
cells,
too many blood
too
vessels
many blood
that are
vessels.
feeding the cancer.
They're feeding the cancer. So I'm curious, do you know, is there a specific cancer or disease that's easier to reverse?
Okay, so let's take a look at what we know from the cancer treatment perspective. So I work in this area, and I've been involved with helping treat cancer patients. So we do know that there is a new type of medicine that's not chemo, that if you they're called anti-angiogenesis. So they cut off the blood supply feeding the big cancers. By the time, so here's a research experiment that was done a couple of decades ago in the lab that I worked in. If you grew tiny little cancer cells and up to the size of the tip of a ballpoint pen, that's about 3 millimeters in diameter, and you kind of floated them in a broth and didn't allow them to touch blood vessels, they would just stay there at that size almost indefinitely.
Mm,
Okay. And in our body, that's the size that the immune system would wing by and take out. The moment you allow blood vessels to grow into that microscopic mass, that tumor will grow 16,000 times in 2 weeks. It'll explode. This is like a trigger that's get pulled in order to have cancers grow up.
mm,
And for that reason, biotech companies started to develop anti-angiogenic drugs to
mm.
treat cancer by cutting off the blood supply. So there are about a dozen anti-angiogenic drugs that have changed the game for treating kidney cancer and liver cancer and lung cancer and even brain cancer. All right. So we know that we can actually do this with drugs. The question is, can we do it with food? Not so
Mm.
much when cancer is out of the barn, horses out of the
Right,
barn, but what
right.
about prevention? What are foods that can prevent cancer? Well, it turns out that 2 apples a day actually can lower the rate of lung cancer and
Wow.
colon cancer. Why? Because there are natural substances in apples like quercetin. That's one of the natural chemicals that actually are naturally anti-angiogenic. Green tea actually has been lowered risk of colorectal cancer. Okay,
Interesting.
particularly in women. And what's in a cup of green tea are these polyphenols, e.g., CG. And when you drink it, it gets in your bloodstream. Why? Because the blood vessels are carrying it, and now your blood vessels loaded with this cancer-starving stuff.
Mm.
These little tumors don't have a chance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it the same as eating 2 apples a day and eating these specific foods as it would be just putting all those ingredients in a supplement and taking the supplement? Would that work just as well? To have like
So,
the super supplement that is just the killer of all cancer and diseases, of all these different nutrients?
well, look, I'm a researcher, and I've been involved with drug development, and so if it were that easy, it would have been done a while ago. But I
Right.
can tell you that what I tell people is that the whole food is always going to be a little bit better for the
Okay.
following reason. Number one, for a supplement, you reduce it to a couple of different elements, that you try to pack into a capsule. The
Mm-hmm.
whole food, man, it's got hundreds, if not thousands, of natural goodies and chemicals, including like an apple's got the skin, it's got ursolic acid, it's got fiber, which feeds your gut microbiome, it's got quercetin, which cuts out the blood supply. So you're getting all that in there, compared to just one thing you try to pack into a little capsule. That said, supplements are useful, and I'm involved with designing and developing supplements as
Mm-hmm.
well. What we want to do, supplements, the term means topping off,
Mm.
right? So you're supplementing, you're not
Right.
replacing. And this
Right.
is what, like what you were just asking, Lewis, is so important. Like, can we just not bother eating and just have a supplement? No, man, like you should be eating because you enjoy food.
Mm.
It's good for us. It brings people together. It tells us something about our traditions, our culture, our family, our community. Everybody's from someplace. Everybody's got something that they love to eat. And of that list, there's some good stuff in it. And so we should really lean forward. So that's the other thing that's a little bit different from me, that compared to a lot of other doctors that tell people what not to eat. I
Mm-hmm.
try to tell people what you should add to your life, not that what you should take away. Plenty of people can tell you what to take away.
Right.
I'm telling you what to add, and we should add foods that activate your health defenses, and supplements can be useful to top things off.
Got it. I've been told many times that inflammation is also a big, I guess, warning sign for diseases and cancers. And the more inflammation, the more your body is less capable of defending itself, and its immune system is weaker, is what I've been told. What would you say are the best ways to reduce inflammation in the body quickly? Is it through food? Is it through medicine? Is it through fasting? Is it through, less, more sleep? Is it through a better environment? What would you say is the best way?
So, a lot of people, I think, when they hear about inflammation, they think about it as a bad guy. And what I want to tell you is that inflammation is normal and it's just part of our immune system.
Mm-hmm.
So when you actually have a bacteria or a virus invading your body, let's say you get a cold, your immune system sets up a little bit of inflammation in your nose, okay, which is why we have a stuffy nose, a runny nose, and then it tackles the invader right then and there, and then hopefully that's all that matters. And by the way, another sure sign of inflammation is if you cut yourself in the kitchen, and you see that little cut will pretty quickly swell up, turn red and swell up. Inflammation, that's your immune system trying to tackle all the bacteria that might be trying to get into your skin. Inflammation is good, but it goes up to protect you, and then it comes right down. I call it like the volume switch in a car radio. Like
Right.
you get in a car, you want to hear some tunes, you got to turn it on. But what the problem with inflammation is when it doesn't go back down, it keeps on going more. It's chronic and it keeps on going up. And that's like getting in your car and having a passenger, turn up that volume and keep cranking that volume. And you're like, hey, man, turn that thing down, right? Doesn't go down, and you just can't go on.
Right.
And that's what happens inside your body. So what are some of the different ways to actually deal with that? Well, the first thing to do is think about lifestyle, because we can actually give anti-inflammatories. I could tell you to go out to take some Motrin, Tylenol, whatever. That'll take down your inflammation. But actually, there are ways of actually doing it. If you actually just, if you stopped and just calmed yourself and did some breaths and start to meditate, your body's inflammation will start to calm down. Okay. If you actually got a good night's sleep, your body will the inflammation will start to calm down. It's kind of like, everything is going crazy. Just let the thing settle a little bit. So that's your inflammation settling down. Now, there are foods that have a lot of anti-inflammatory properties that can be very helpful. So, for example, cranberries have a lot of anti-inflammatory polyphenols. Chocolate even also has anti-inflammatory properties. Vitamin C is pretty anti-inflammatory. Strawberries, guava, red bell peppers, all really good, really good. I think that the other thing to think about is lots of fruits and vegetables, lots of fruits in particular, have anti-inflammatory properties. So the key about inflammation is that you don't want to get rid of it altogether.
Okay.
Okay. Like if you got pumped up on steroids, it would shut down your inflammation. You might get infected because you don't have any inflammation. You want your body to get its set point. You want to get back to balance. So I think that, there's lifestyle, there's diet, foods you can choose, there's sleep. All these things can actually help to calm inflammation. It's not a single on and off switch.
I'm curious, what would you say are the most harmful foods then? If you said here are 3 foods that we should be eliminating, what would be those most harmful foods that cause the spike in inflammation consistently and causes a lot of these other diseases and cancerous cells to occur?
Right. Well, I'll tell you 3 foods that actually harm the body's health defenses, and including the immune system by ratcheting it up inflammation and then lowering the defensive properties, but also harm your DNA, also harm your microbiome, also blunt and stun your stem cells, and also wreck your body's ability to control its blood supply. So it's a lot worse than simply triggering inflammation. And by the way, that's the whole point, right? Like we try to take the silver bullet approach to everything. Let's match this with match that. What I'm telling you is that the body is this system.
Yes.
So either you introduce something good to it, and you'll probably light up a lot of good systems. And if you put something bad to it, you'll probably trash a lot of it, right? Okay, so what are some 3 foods that actually we know can trash your body's health defenses? One is soda. So sugar
Ooh,
sweetened beverages like soda. All right. So the
man.
favorite ones. It's tough,
Yeah.
right? Because we grew
I
up.
wish I could go back to my younger self and say, put down the 8 cans of Dr. Pepper a day, when you're like 8 years old. Man.
Well, and I'm telling you, like, this is one thing that I always try to coach people on. If you really, really love sodas, okay, try to come off it, just by going down 1 can a day, because
Hmm.
most people drink multiple cans. Go down 1 can a day and get to as low as you can, because the added sugar actually overloads
Mm.
your body's ability to be able to handle the sugar. And then it makes you inflamed just
Yeah.
by the nature of the sugar.
I cut out I
Eventually,
cut out I cut out soda years ago. I mean, maybe I have it once in a couple months or something for like a treat, but
yeah.
it used to be almost an addiction probably for how much I drank it growing up as a kid. In the summers, you're just drinking it nonstop, like water. But then when I learned about nutrition more, when I was playing sports and realizing this is making me tired, it's not quenching my thirst. That's when I said, "Oh, okay, I need more of a competitive edge," and kind of cut it out of my life. So,
Well, not
uh,
only does soda, actually the sugar in soda, cause inflammation, it really wrecks your microbiome, your gut
mhm,
bacteria as well. Your gut bacteria just can't tolerate that much sugar.
yeah,
Okay,
wow,
and then guess what? And then you say, well, wait a minute, that's why we have diet soda, right? Turns
exactly.
out that those artificial sweeteners in soda screw your microbiome, your gut bacteria, even more.
Ooh, more than regular can of soda.
More than a regular can of
Come
soda.
on. So if it says zero sugar and it's a soda or a pop, you're saying that could be more harmful than
For
just
your
the
gut
for your.
microbiome,
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
Because the zero sugar is actually to prevent glucose spikes in your body.
Uh
But
huh.
in point of fact, it actually wrecks your gut microbiome. And remember what I told you, that gut microbiome communicates your brain, communicates your immune system, communicates your healing systems. That is not a system you want to screw with. And so that's why, I try to tell people, you really got to watch out for those artificial sweeteners. They do some bad things. So that's one thing. Sodas.
What are the best before you go to the next thing? What are the best sweeteners we should be looking for when we're adding something into food or we
Sure.
see it on the
Sure.
packaging?
Well, natural sugars in fruits and vegetables, people go, well, I don't want any sugar in them, but what about in a peach? There's
Hmm.
nothing better than a summer peach to me. And that natural sugar is okay, because when you eat the peach, you're not just getting the sugar, you're also getting all these other bioactives and the fiber and
The
everything
fibers,
else,
yeah.
hundreds of thousands of natural chemicals that are good for you from Mother Nature's kind of
Hmm.
pharmacy with an F.
Yes.
Okay. So that's different than just, having sugar
Corn
in a
syrup.
glass,
Yeah.
or corn syrup, right? High fructose corn syrup, not good for you. Maple syrup, a good way
Hmm.
to sweeten.
Okay.
Honey is also a good way to sweeten as well. Monk fruit is actually
Hmm.
a really, really sweet tasting gourd, actually a shell, that is also a decent sweetener. Stevia, actually pretty powerful sweetener. I've been doing some research on it. I haven't been able to find anything wrong with it. But for people that are looking at stevia, be very careful. Pick up that package and look at the side of the box, and read what's on there, because a lot of things that are called stevia actually have a lot of other things added to it.
Okay.
So you want to get the pure stuff. I always tell, if it's in a box, look at what's inside it before you buy it.
There you go. Okay, so soda and pop is the number one thing that is one of the worst things you could be eating or the things that could cause more disease and cancers
Yeah,
in
yeah.
your body. Okay, that's number one. Number two.
Uh, Processed meats. Now, all
Ooh,
of us that were kids grew up, at the,
and the
eating deli
turkey, the
meats,
ham, and the
turkey
yes,
and a ham, right? I mean, like, that's basically you. What did your
childhood.
mom? What did your mom pack in your lunch bag, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, that's a relic of the 1950s.
Mm,
Of this sort of ultra processed foods that are everywhere, laden with chemicals. That's not what we want to be doing. Now, I have to say, it doesn't mean categorically that hams or sausages are bad for you, because if you go to Italy, or if you go to places in Asia or Latin America where they create dried meats kind of the old way, they're not putting chemicals in there and they're not manipulating it. But here, where you go to the deli counter and like,
Yeah.
take a look at that deli meat. Like, that's not, meat doesn't come like that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the thing. Processed meats are actually classified by the World Health Organization as a carcinogen. And linked to the causation of cancer. You got to eat a lot of it, but a lot of people actually eat. I mean, how many hoagies or subs?
Yeah.
Right. Wow. And I got to say, like when I was growing up as a kid, I loved those kind of like fancy kind of like the deli meats and stuff like
Absolutely.
that. Totally not good for you. So that's not good for you. It also damages the gut microbiome. And it can actually damage your DNA. So you want to kind of be cut down or cut out sodas and processed meats. And then the other thing is really a category, and I call these ultra processed foods. So things are in a box or in a can that, like are instant this, or, scoop it out and eat it quick. I don't want to name any particular products. I don't want to call any products out, but I think we all know the stuff, a lot of stuff we grew up with and were advertised on television to kids. Right. The frosted this, the pop that, the things that use they're like the TV dinners, like things that used to be like instant foods. Got to be really careful about that, because if you take a look at the packaging, and I'm telling you, there's one thing your viewers can get from me about things to watch out for. Whatever you buy, pick it up, if it's in a box or in a can, and look on the side. Don't look just at the label. Look at the name of it. Look at the side and see if you recognize the ingredients. If you start, start losing track and you can't pronounce and you don't know what most of that stuff is, it's an ultra processed food. That harms your DNA. That lowers your immunity. That screws up your gut microbiome. It impairs angiogenesis. It actually causes our cells to age faster. Those telomeres burn down faster.
Oh, man, by those processed foods.
Yeah. Ultra processed foods. Ultra, right?
Okay. What's the difference between ultra and processed?
Okay. So look, processing is technically any type of food you manipulate. Like if you pick a tomato and you cut it up and you make spaghetti sauce at home, that's processing. You're processing it. Okay. If you're taking flour and an egg and you're making homemade pasta, you're processing it. I'm talking about ultra processed. There's a term called extrusion. Have you heard of this?
Yes.
Okay. So basically you've got these die cut machines that like this goop gets thrown into, and like the big oil, like crazy oils get thrown in there. And then it just like pushes out like Play-Doh chunks of food that get cut and dried. That's what I'm talking about. Like that's the ultra processing. It takes, I guess maybe the definition, it takes food and transforms it into a form you don't recognize.
Got it. Okay.
You don't recognize that food.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Obesity in 2003, when they started to look at the studies, that was the first really definitive studies that said, hey, obesity is actually a huge risk factor, as well as type 2 diabetes. And both of those conditions will actually increase your risk of certain types of cancer a lot.